My sister accused me of lying about money. The old account suddenly reactivated. Before we continue, subscribe and comment your country or city below. Let's see how far this powerful story travels. The cafe was loud, filled with the clatter of ceramic plates and the low hum of a dozen conversations, but the silence at our table was deafening. My sister, Chloe, sat across from me, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She was staring at me with a look I had never seen before, a mixture of disappointment and cold, hard suspicion. It had been 3 years since our mother passed away, leaving us orphans in our late 20s. We had always been close, relying on each other when the world got tough, but today, that bond felt like it was snapping in half. "Just admit it, Brian," Chloe said, her voice cutting through the noise like a knife. "You spent it. You spent the emergency fund on your investments, or your rent, and now it's gone." She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Chloe had always been the skeptical one, the one who believed that money under a mattress was safer than money in a bank. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead. "I didn't spend it, Chloe," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, though my hands were shaking under the table. "I haven't touched a dime of Mom's money. It's supposed to be there." "Then where is it?" she demanded, slamming her hand on the table. A few people turned to look. "We went to the bank yesterday. They said the account number didn't exist. They said there was no record of a family safety net under Mom's name." She shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. "You were the executor. You had the access. It's the only explanation." I tried to reason with her, but panic was rising in my chest. "It's not the only explanation," I insisted, my mind racing. "Banks merge. Records get archived. That account was opened 20 years ago at First Valley Savings. First Valley doesn't even exist anymore. It was bought by Apex Bank. Things get lost in the shuffle." $30,000 doesn't just get lost, Brian," she shouted, standing up. "That money was our safety net. My transmission is shot. I can't get to work. My rent is going up next month. Mom promised that money was for emergencies. This is an emergency and you stole it." She grabbed her purse, her hands trembling with rage. "I'm done listening to your lies. If you don't come up with my share, $15,000, by next week I'm getting a lawyer. I'm auditing the estate, and I will press charges if I have to." She stormed out of the cafe, the bell on the door jingling cheerfully behind her, a stark contrast to the disaster she left in her wake. I sat there, stunned, staring at her half-empty coffee cup. I knew I hadn't stolen the money. I remembered Mom taking me to the bank 10 years ago. She had deposited the insurance check and looked me in the eye. "This is for a rainy day, Brian," she had said. "Don't touch it unless the sky is falling." I had honored that promise. But the sky was definitely falling now. I drove home in a daze, the radio playing songs I didn't hear. My apartment was quiet, usually my sanctuary, but today it felt like a prison. I walked straight to my home office, a converted closet filled with boxes I hadn't unpacked in years. If the bank couldn't find the account digitally, I needed physical proof. I needed the original passbook or a statement. Something that proved the account existed and that I hadn't drained it. I tore the room apart. I pulled books off the shelves, shaking them to see if papers would fall out. I dumped out old shoeboxes filled with tax returns from 2015. Dust filled the air, making me cough, but I didn't stop. I found my high school diploma. I found Mom's favorite recipe cards for lasagna. I even found a birthday card she gave me when I turned 21. But I couldn't find the blue folder labeled First Valley. Panic began to curdle into despair. Without that account number, I was sunk. Chloe would sue me. It wasn't just about the money, it was about my reputation. She would tell our aunts and uncles. I would be the nephew who stole from his dead mother. I sat on the floor, surrounded by a sea of paper, and put my head in my hands. How could I prove a negative? How could I prove I didn't take something that the bank said never existed? It was 2 a.m. when I finally gave up on the physical search. My back ached and my eyes were burning. I sat amidst the debris of my own life, feeling defeated. Maybe I was crazy. Had Mom closed it before she died and forgotten to tell me? Dementia hadn't been an issue, But she was tired at the end. Maybe she moved it? But no, I remembered the statements coming in the mail. The mail. I realized suddenly that I hadn't received a paper statement for that account in years. I had assumed it was because I set everything to paperless, to save trees, or maybe because the account was inactive. I grabbed my laptop and logged into my old email account, the one I used in college, the one I barely checked anymore because it was overrun with spam. The inbox was a digital graveyard. Thousands of unread emails. I typed First Valley into the search bar. The little wheel spun and spun. No results found. My heart sank. I tried statement. Too many results. Then I typed Apex Bank. Nothing. Finally, I typed Mom. A few emails from her, asking about dinner, checking in. Reading them hurt. I missed her so much. I missed her voice telling me everything would be okay. But right now, her silence was destroying me. I was about to close the laptop when I had a thought. The merger. When First Valley became Apex Bank, there must have been communication. I searched for merger. Nothing. I searched for account transfer. Then I saw it. Buried on page 10 of the search results, from 5 years ago. An email from First Valley Savings. Subject: Important notice regarding your account status. I clicked it, my breath hitching. Dear customer, it read. First Valley is becoming Apex Bank. Your account will automatically transfer to our new system, unless your account has been dormant for more than 36 months. In accordance with state banking regulations and escheatment laws, dormant accounts will be transferred to the state unclaimed property division if not claimed. Dormant. The word flashed on the screen like a neon sign. I hadn't touched the money. I hadn't deposited a cent. I hadn't withdrawn a penny. I thought I was being responsible by letting it sit and grow interest. But I had actually triggered a failsafe. The bank hadn't lost the money, they had given it away because they thought we were dead or had forgotten it. A wave of relief washed over me, immediately followed by a new wave of stress. Escheatment. I knew what that meant. It meant the money was sitting in a government holding tank somewhere, buried under miles of red tape. Reclaiming money from the state wasn't like walking up to an ATM. It was a bureaucratic nightmare that could take months, sometimes years. I looked at the calendar on my wall. Chloe had given me 1 week. 1 week before she went nuclear. If I went to her and said, "The state has it, I promise," she would think it was just another stalling tactic. She would think I was making up words. Escheatment sounded like a made-up excuse for, I spent it. I needed to initiate the claim immediately. I went to the state treasurer's website. The interface looked like it hadn't been updated since 1999. I typed in Mom's name, Sarah Jenkins. The screen refreshed. There were 50 Sarah Jenkinses. I refined the search. Sarah Jenkins, 194 Maple Street. One result popped up. Property ID, 88429 status, held amount, over $100. It didn't show the exact amount. It just said, over $100. That could be $101, or it could be the $30,000. I clicked Claim. The system demanded proof of identity, a death certificate, proof of executorship, and the original account number. I had the death certificate and the executor papers. But I still didn't have the full account number. The email only showed the last 4 digits, 4490. I barely slept that night. I woke up at 6 a.m., my eyes gritty, my body running on adrenaline and caffeine. I needed the full account number to file the claim. And to get that, I needed to go back to the bank. Not the small branch we visited yesterday where the teller shrugged at us, but the main regional headquarters downtown. I put on my best suit. I wanted to look like someone who shouldn't be messed with, someone who understood finance, even though I was just a graphic designer who was terrified of his little sister. I grabbed the printed email, the death certificate, and my ID. I drove downtown, rehearsing what I would say. I needed to be firm but polite. I couldn't lose my temper. If I got kicked out, I lost the only lead I had. I parked in the expensive garage and walked into the Apex Bank Tower. The lobby was marble and glass, intimidating and cold. I approached the reception desk. "I need to speak to a manager in the archival department," I said. It's an emergency regarding a dormant account. The receptionist looked me up and down, clearly assessing whether I was a crazy person or a customer. Do you have an appointment? She asked. No, I said. But I have documentation of a bank error regarding a merger. I held up the folder. The word error usually gets attention in banks. They hate errors. She picked up the phone and whispered something. A few minutes later, a woman in a sharp gray suit walked out of the elevators. She introduced herself as Ms. Harper, a senior account specialist. She didn't look like the friendly neighborhood banker. She looked like a corporate fixer. She led me into a small glass office and sat behind a desk that had nothing on it but a computer and a phone. How can I help you, Mr. Jenkins? She asked, her voice professional but detached. I explained the situation. I laid out the email from 5 years ago. My sister thinks I stole this money, I said, allowing a bit of my desperation to seep through. I need to prove it exists. I need the full account number to reclaim it from the state. And I need to know the exact balance at the time of transfer. Ms. Harper put on reading glasses and took the email. She typed something into her computer. The silence stretched for what felt like an hour. I watched her eyes scan the screen. She frowned, typed some more, and then clicked her mouse rapidly. I can see the old First Valley records in the deep archive, she finally said. It takes a moment to decrypt them. The systems don't always talk to each other well. She paused. Okay, here it is. Account ending in 4490. It was flagged dormant in 2019. She turned the screen toward me. There was Sarah Jenkins. The balance at the time of transfer was $32,450.12, she read. Hearing that number was like having a weight lifted off my chest. It was there. It was real. I wasn't crazy, and I wasn't a thief. Can you print that? I asked. Can you give me an official letter on bank letterhead stating this history? I can, she said. But getting the money back, that is entirely between you and the state treasurer. Once we send it, it's out of our hands. I understand, I said. I just need the proof. Ms. Harper printed the document. It was a single page, dense with codes and dates, but in the middle it clearly stated the transfer amount and the reason, escheatment due to inactivity. I walked out of the bank feeling like I had just won a war. I had the golden ticket. I got into my car and immediately called Chloe. It went straight to voicemail. Chloe, I said. I have the proof. I'm coming over. Please be home. I drove straight to her apartment complex. It was a rundown building on the south side of town. Seeing it always made me feel guilty that I had a nicer place, even though I worked 2 jobs to afford mine. I knocked on her door. No answer. I knocked again harder. Chloe, it's Brian. I'm not leaving until you open the door. Finally, the door cracked open. Chloe looked terrible. Her eyes were red and puffy, and she was wearing the same clothes as the day before. She looked at me with dull anger. You have the money? She asked, her voice raspy. Better, I said, holding up the envelope. I have the truth. I pushed the door open gently and walked in. Her apartment was a mess. Boxes were stacked in the corner. Are you packing? I asked. I have to move, she muttered, sitting on the couch. Landlord raised the rent. Without that money, I can't stay. I'm going to stay with a friend. The guilt hit me hard again. You don't have to move, I said. Look at this. I handed her the letter from the bank. Chloe took the paper, her hands shaking. She read it slowly, tracing the lines with her finger. She looked at the date. She looked at the balance. $32,000, she whispered. It went to the state? Because we didn't use it, I explained, sitting next to her. It was dormant. I didn't steal it, Chloe. The government took it for safekeeping because we were too good at following Mom's rule about not touching it. She looked up at me, tears spilling over. So it's gone? No, I said. It's just held. We have to file a claim. I have the claim number. We send this document, and they send us a check. It might take a few weeks, maybe 2 months, but it's coming. Chloe dropped the paper and put her head in her hands. 2 months, she sobbed. Brian, I don't have 2 months. My car died this morning. I lost my job because I couldn't get to shift. I have nothing. My heart broke. The victory of finding the paper suddenly felt hollow. Proving I was innocent didn't solve her immediate crisis. I looked around her apartment. I looked at my little sister, who was drowning while I had been worried about my reputation. "You're not going to lose the apartment," I said firmly. I pulled out my checkbook, my personal one. "I have some savings. Not Mom's money, but mine. I can cover your rent and the transmission. When the state check comes, you pay me back." She looked up shocked. "You do that? After I called you a thief? After I threatened to sue you?" "Mom wanted us to be a team," I said. "She left that money so we wouldn't struggle. Just because the state is holding it hostage doesn't mean we stop being a family." I wrote a check for $3,000 and handed it to her. She took it and hugged me, crying into my shoulder. It was the first time we had hugged since the funeral. We spent the rest of the afternoon filling out the state forms online. We scanned the bank letter, uploaded our IDs, and hit submit. The screen gave us a confirmation number and a timeline. Expected processing, 8 to 12 weeks. 2 weeks passed. I checked the state website every day. Status, processing. It hadn't moved. Chloe was doing better, her car was fixed, and she had found a new job waitressing, but the looming wait for the big money was stressful. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was an automated text from Apex Bank. "Alert, activity detected on linked account ending in 4490. Please log in to verify." I froze. Account 4490? That was the old First Valley account. The dormant one. The one that didn't exist anymore. How could there be activity on a closed account? I thought maybe it was a scam text, phishing for my info. But the sender code matched my usual bank alerts. I opened my laptop and logged into my current Apex banking portal. Usually, I only saw my checking and savings. But today, there was a new tab. It was labeled, Legacy Account Restoration. I clicked it. The screen spun. And then, a number appeared. Balance, $35,102.50. Status, active. I stared at the screen, blinking. It wasn't zero. It wasn't the $32,000 that went to the state. It was higher. And it was active. I checked the transaction history. There was a single entry dated today, reversal of escheatment, system audit correction. I didn't understand. I called Ms. Harper at the bank immediately. She answered on the second ring. "Mr. Jenkins? I was just about to call you." "What is happening?" I asked. "My account, it's back? I thought the state had it." "It's the strangest thing," Ms. Harper said, sounding genuinely surprised. "After you came in, I flagged the file for a deeper review. It turns out, when the systems merged 5 years ago, the dormancy tag was applied in error. The account was scheduled to go to the state, but the transfer never actually completed because of a server mismatch. The money has been sitting in a limbo holding account at the bank for 2 years. So the state doesn't have it?" I asked, my voice rising. "No," she said. "The state never claimed it. When I pulled the file for you, it triggered an audit bot. The bot realized the funds were still in-house and automatically reinstated them to your profile because your social security number matched. It also applied the back interest for the years it was held." "So it's available?" I asked. "Like right now?" "Yes," she said. "You can transfer it, withdraw it, whatever you like. It's your money, Mr. Jenkins." It never left. I hung up the phone and started laughing. It was hysterical, manic laughter. The technology that had lost the money had suddenly decided to fix itself just because we poked it. I transferred half the money immediately to Chloe's bank account. Then I called her. "Check your app," I said. "What?" she asked. "Just check it." I heard a gasp on the other end. "Brian? $17,000? Where? How?" "The old account," I said, grinning. "It reactivated. The bank realized they messed up. We don't have to wait for the state." Chloe started screaming with joy. "I can pay off my student loan. I can put a deposit on a safer apartment." "And you can pay me back the $3,000, I teased. "Keep it," she laughed. "Take interest." That night, we met for dinner at a steakhouse, somewhere we never would have gone before. We ordered the expensive wine. We toasted to Mom. "You know, Chloe said, looking at her wine glass. I learned something from this. That you should check your spam folder? I asked. No, she smiled. That I shouldn't jump to conclusions. And that, well, you're a good brother. Even when I'm being a witch. You were a witch, I agreed. But a witch with a point. If you hadn't yelled at me, I never would have gone digging. That money would have sat in limbo forever until the bank eventually absorbed it as profit. Your anger saved the legacy. It was true. If we had been passive, if we had just accepted the account not found error, the system would have swallowed Mom's life savings. It took a fight to get it back. The next day, I went to the bank one last time. I closed the legacy account. I didn't want to risk it disappearing again. I moved my share into a mutual fund, something with a paper trail a mile long. I set up alerts for every transaction. I wasn't going to be the guy who lost the money again. A week later, I received a letter from the state treasurer. Regarding claim number 88429, we are unable to process your claim as no funds were ever received from the reporting institution. I framed the letter. I hung it in my office next to the picture of Mom. It was a reminder of how close we came to losing everything to a clerical error. It was a reminder that the system isn't perfect, and sometimes, you have to be the glitch in the matrix to set things right. Chloe moved into a new place, a nice one with security and a parking spot. I helped her move. We carried boxes, laughing about the time she thought I was an embezzler. The tension was gone, replaced by a new, stronger bond. We had been through the fire and came out with our pockets full. Mom would be proud, Chloe said, putting a picture of her on the mantelpiece. She would, I said. She'd also say we were idiots for stressing her out in the afterlife. I drove home that night feeling lighter than I had in years. The money was nice, sure. But the vindication? That was priceless. The text message from the bank, the sudden appearance of the numbers on the screen, it was like a wink from the universe. Or maybe a wink from Mom. I sat at my desk, the same desk where I had torn my hair out searching for a blue folder. I opened my laptop. I logged into my bank. I looked at the balance. It was just a number. But it represented trust, history, and a future. I closed the laptop, leaned back, and finally, for the first time in a month, I truly relaxed. The account was active. And so were we.